overall my symptoms are worse, but I have a lot more words to sort of describe my symptoms now, so I'm more able to be like, oh, that's anxiety, like that's an anxiety attack, like, oh, I'm going nonverbal, like that's an intrusive thought, like, and being able to sort of name it and take a step back from it and recognize it as like, oh, like that's anxiety, and it's not necessarily something that is true or has to be true, or something that I have to believe.
Every year in the winter I get seasonal affective disorder, and that's something that I've been dealing with my whole life. But last year it was particularly bad. I'm not sure why, but December, January, February of last year were very hard for me. And then the pandemic hit, and it was like, I mean, everybody went through it, but it was overwhelming and crazy. And I went through the worst depression of my life this year.
I am someone that has always struggled with depression and anxiety, but going into this pandemic, I had no idea how long it would last or how much it would impact my mental health. My anxiety has gotten exponentially worse in the past year.
I'm more able to sort of talk myself out of things, and like, you know, be able to put things in perspective and be like, okay, like this is what I'm feeling right now and this is what's happening, and it's harder and it's worse than it's been in the past, but like I know that I can get through it, and I know that it's not sort of like going to last forever.
Well, I think a lot of my mental health was rooted in having an idea for the future, a plan, if you will. I'm kind of a structured person in all aspects of my life. So, you know, having a pandemic really just kind of made planning very difficult. You can't go too far in the future. No one has any idea when this is all going to be back to normal.
It's been bad. You know, like, I've had suicidal thoughts my whole adult life, but never had they been so serious and so like an option on the table.
So I've been diagnosed with depression since about 2008, 2009, and I most definitely was able to track and kind of control it, because I would only get it like a certain amount of, I would get seasonal depression. So like from November to February, I would be really depressed, and then for the rest of the year, I'd be okay.
I am very afraid of getting sick, having an allergic reaction, throwing up. So it's kind of a vicious cycle of nauseous, anxious, more nauseous, more anxious. My anxiety is through the roof. And the more I think about COVID and what's going on in the world, the worse it gets.
My mental health has been kind of unhinged, I would say, not like in a, you know, a terrible sense, really, just that whereas I would have had like a more structured life before, now I kind of feel like I'm just doing whatever, whenever, because I can't really plan ahead like more than 2 or 3 weeks. You know, I'm the kind of person that has like a 5-year plan and like, you know, year-long resolutions. So those are all kind of out the window right now. And so it feels kind of like I'm just all over the place. Kind of hard to keep organized and like stay on track with things.
When we started lockdown, for the first week or two, I was okay. And then is when I started noticing my my depression going up and down, and me noticing I'm no professional and I'm not diagnosed, but I'm assuming I have BPD as well. Just some of the symptoms I see on the internet that I feel like I have, so hopefully I could get a diagnosis for that soon. Yeah, so I guess a lot of fluctuating.
Hasn't gotten better. I can say that much with confidence. Just being in quarantine and being in isolation, like I already feel pretty fucking alone. So like just, doing classes online and like never leaving this room, even though it's a complete fucking vibe, like I need to go outside. And I never like, and I'm a pretty like utilitarian person, like almost to a fault. Like I'm like, if I do X and Y, then what's my benefit, or like what's the maximum amount of benefit I can have with the situation. And that's kind of how I approach things. So when I don't do like small stuff ever that I really should do, like go outside very often, or like just do shit like that, which really kind of it gets up to here, because we're fucking animals, right? Like I need to be outside, like hunting, getting meat, right? Because we still have that part of us like really deeply ingrained. So yeah, I need to go outside more. Is that is that consequence?
I have grown up with some amount of anxiety for basically my entire life. My mom's side of the family has had genetic anxiety, and I guess I just never realized I had it. So that would show up in forms of overthinking and just being anxious about everything. And over the past year, especially with going into quarantine as a freshman college student, it got a lot worse, and I mean a lot worse.
Dumpster fire, is that appropriate? Like complete shit show? It's like, I'm sure, well, I don't want to make assumptions, but I feel like a lot of people, whether they're white, cis, hetero, male, like feel somewhat guilty about even like having emotions based on, what other people are experiencing. So there's that, is just piled on top of all the other stuff. But, to get sort of as specific as I can, like when this hit, Aaron and I had just finished like our first round of yoga teacher training, and we were on this like insane high and super ultra connected with these new people that we met and just had this like wonderful experience with. And several of us were getting like had just literally started the next round of it, and then bam, pandemic hits, and it's like instant seclusion and all that stuff. And it was just like from one extreme to another.
I'd say it's gotten better. I mean, I've always struggled with my mental health, but I think like the pandemic has both kind of made my mental health a little bit worse, but also like toward the end, this past fall when I went back to school, I feel like it got better because, I was with my friends. I was like surrounding myself with good people. I started dating someone, so I have a boyfriend now, which I definitely feel like has helped.
There were days where I couldn't get out of my mind. I couldn't get out of the cycle of overthinking and just thinking about everything, to the point where I wouldn't want to leave my house, or I wouldn't want to do things that I usually love to do. I started going to therapy for that, but over the past year, my anxiety has gotten a lot worse.
Aaron is a super empath, but I guess we're talking about me too. And I'm always comparing myself to other people because, again, it's like I feel guilty because these other people are feeling this way. So why should I should be great. I'm like the dominant class. Like I should have no fucking problems, right? But I still have a brain that likes to shit on me all the time. So it's like, I went through all of it, like severe depression, suicidal ideations, like self-loathing, you name it, I had it, like just breakdowns, emotional breakdowns. I guess we're getting into like the effects of it, but it changed drastically.
At the beginning, it was kind of bad. Living at home is kind of toxic for me. Like my parents and I, we kind of argue all the time. They still think like I'm their little girl and that they can like control me, I guess, and like make my decisions for me, and they really can't because I'm 20, I'm an adult now.
When we first went into lockdown, I was already struggling with depression a lot, and kind of just being forced to stay inside and not really have any incentive to get up and do things kind of helped me or made me spiral a lot, and really affected my grades and kind of just dug myself into a pit.
I would say definitely up and down. I think that like I've changed and like my mental health has changed a lot in different ways. First of all, I already had a lot of anxiety before I was in a global pandemic, and now it's just gotten a lot worse. Obviously, I have like a lot of COVID-related anxiety dreams. Just generally like kind of just worsened anxiety. I've always had a little bit of like germophobia in me. And so it's just inspired a lot of anxiety. Also, have just been really lonely and really sad in ways that I've never been before. I'm at home right now, and pretty much all of my friends went back to college, but I stayed home, A, to save money on rent, and B, because it just didn't feel safe in my college town. And so I've been really isolated, and it's just been really hard. I've just been really lonely.
I definitely feel the weight of this year in a way that I don't know, things don't usually get under my skin. I'm a pretty roll with the punches kind of person. But I definitely feel like I just am carrying this level of anxiety through everything in a way that I normally don't. Or like I just don't let things go as easily as I used to, because everything is out of our control, it seems like.
Recently, the last semester, it got even worse. And that coupled with like an accident I was in kind of just kept me in bed almost all day, every day. And yeah, recently I've started getting a lot better. I've been able to actually get up and do things. So a bit of hope.
Also, honestly, I think a lot of people have experienced this, but just kind of like a new and like worsening agoraphobia. It's really hard to leave the house. I don't want to leave the house. It doesn't feel safe. And I get really like freaked out when I'm like, do leave the house to, go to the grocery store, go to the coffee shop. And there's like a lot of people. I start to get like panicked in situations that normally like I had no problem in. But I also think that there has been like upsides. I've had like worsening mental health, but also like I think being alone has been really good for my self-esteem. Like I've just like learned about myself a lot, like being by myself all the time. And I think that it's provided like a lot of good opportunities for self-reflection. And I think that like not actively comparing myself to people all the time because I'm not around anybody. And honestly, it's good to have a break from like the substance abuse culture of college. I think that a lot of people, are abusing substances to cope. But like in my house, like we don't drink very much or anything. So it's honestly just been kind of nice to get a break from the like normalized alcoholism that you see in college. Not that it's not fun though,